All right. We'll follow your lead, Don. Thanks.
Welcome, everybody, for the online judge training session for the Conrad Challenge. I want to thank everybody for taking some time out of your busy schedules to A, volunteer to participate as a judge in this awesome competition and opportunity for students, and B, take time out of your day today to join us for this training. It's an important aspect for the judges. This competition would definitely not be possible without all of our judges, so you guys are a very important part of this, and I can't thank you enough for the time that you're donating and offering to us to be able to participate as a judge. So thank you first and foremost. Mark Schroll and Elliot Work are on the phone, and they will be leading the training. They are the technical experts of Innovation Portal, which you guys should have somewhat become a little familiar with over the last couple of weeks since you registered with me and then registered on the Innovation Portal. So they'll be leading the training, letting you know all the information that you'll need to know as you're judging and scoring different projects. As far as any questions that you have after this training, you're welcome to email me. If I can't answer it, I will definitely go to Elliot and or Mark to get an answer because, like I said, they are the technical experts of this, this program that we're using. So I'm going to turn it over to them in just a moment, but if we can ask everybody to put their phones on mute as well so we don't get any kind of interference or background. I know people have other calls to take and jobs to do, you might be multitasking, so if we can just put phones on mute, that would be very helpful. And Mark, Elliot, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Don, very much. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon, and thank you for spending this time with us. My name is Mark Schroll, and my partner, Elliot Mork, is on the call with us as well. We have a training session set for you, and to kind of set the stage, I will mute everyone as several people have asked in the chat session, just to stop the background noise and things. But you can certainly use the chat function to interject and ask questions. Elliot and Don and I will be watching that. And then also I will unmute at different stages throughout the training as we go. So I'll do that right now. To set the stage, using the Innovation Portal for the Conrad competition is analogous to asking you to judge a science fair competition in a way, with the exception that we just taken everything and put it online. So today's training is very, very much like showing up at the gymnasium where all the projects would be, walking into the auditorium for judges and getting the judges training where they hand you the clipboard and the sheets that tell you where the projects you've been assigned are, and they tell you how to find those projects, how to use the rubric to grade the projects, answer any questions, and then also at the end how to submit your scores back so that they can be fitted into the competition. We've just taken that entire process and put it online. So we wanted to show you the system for doing that, and we've tried to make it as intuitive as possible. On the screen at the moment, we will be jumping over to the Innovation Portal, and we've set up ourselves as a judge and walking through so you can see and hear and ask questions as we go along if you have them. See the whole process of clicking on the Innovation Portal, finding the portfolios that would be assigned to you, what it looks like, what the score sheet looks like, and we will be recording this session and then turning it into a YouTube video so that along that video, along with other resources we'll be giving you, will be at your fingertips in case you want to go back and fast forward or go through any part of it again. So here's the agenda, eight bullet points that we have for you today. I've kind of given an overview of that as we went. The first two bullet points really most of you on the call have done, and it might be review, but it is very important in order to set up the competition online. By now, most of you, if you haven't done this, have created your own Innovation Portal account, and we need to get that connected to the competition. Another visual, if you will, are buckets, big empty buckets. The competition itself, actually Don is in control of 4 competitions or 4 buckets, are empty or relatively empty at the moment. Students are beginning to submit their portfolios and put them in that bucket. Our job is to connect your account, your personal bucket, if you would, to that larger bucket digitally, so that when Don can distribute the portfolios, it takes the portfolios assigned to you, puts those in your grasp so that you can work with them. So we want to make sure that you are connected and have been invited as a judge. After that, as I mentioned, we are going to walk through how you get into your account, where your portfolios will be. We'll be talking about the rubric you'll be asked to use, and it's the same rubric. I'll pause at the moment. The very same rubric, word for word, the students have been using since the first day, since early in December. They created an innovation portal. The interface is the portfolio, and the interface is the same. And the mentors and the teachers have been using the same rubric to guide the work that the students are preparing for you. And then they were told that the same rubric will be the one that will be used in the competition, which is exactly the way a rubric should be used. And then we want to show you the process for accessing other resources for judges, some scored examples from past competitions and past research efforts that have used this rubric to grade portfolios on the innovation portal. So if you have a question of what does a 3 look like, there's an example graded by dozens of engineering educators using this rubric, saying, we've all found this to be a 3. And then finally, where are the score sheets and how do I submit my comments and my scores back to Don, Elise, and Carrie? And we'll show you all of that. Before we do so, the depiction on the screen is, as I mentioned, just the four steps. Hopefully, most of you on the screen will be able to check them off as we go and have already done them. But if you haven't, or if you have any issues whatsoever with connecting or creating an account for yourself, Elliot and I will be absolutely glad to help you, and we will be even staying on a little bit longer after the training online here. We can answer your questions directly. So the first step is to create an innovation portal account if you haven't done so already. And then when you create an account and insert an email address to do it, the system will email you a verification link. When you click the verification link, you're allowed to enter your own choice of a password, and then you create an account. The second step is, once you've created and verified that account, is to write Don and say, hey, Don, I've made an innovation portal account. All is good. I was able to get in. Here's the email that I used to create that account. What Don will do then is she'll copy out that email and she'll put it right into the innovation portal system, and you'll get a second email from the innovation portal saying, hey, you've been invited to be a judge. Would you like to accept? And then it will, if you click the I do accept, it will connect the buckets as I've described before, and that's all there is to getting everybody connected. So again, if you haven't done this step, hopefully most of you have checked off all 4 of these points. But if you had any issues whatsoever, we will help you right after this session or whenever you are free. Before we jump to the innovation portal, I wanted to kind of give you an overview of what you'd be looking at. This is, like I mentioned before, very much like putting all of the pieces just in an online format. At the center is Dawn, and she is the competition administrator for all 4 of the Conrad challenges this year. And Dawn has been communicating both with the students and with all of you as judges. Since December, Dawn has been communicating with teachers and students represented over on the left. Students have created innovation portal accounts just as you've done, connected them to their partners, and used the rubrics and tools and guides and mentors to build the best possible portfolio for all of you. On the same token, or at the same time, Don has been working to connect the buckets represented here by the trophies, if you would, the blue dots, to get you all connected as we've just described. And the system pretty much works like this. The students have registered for the competition early in December, and since then have been using all those tools I mentioned to build their entry as teams. And then when they're ready, they're able to submit their portfolios sometime during the window of January 5th through next Tuesday, January 19th at midnight. So there are students, even as we speak now, that have decided we're ready, let's submit. So the system makes an entire copy of their portfolio, videos, links, everything, and puts it in Don's large bucket. In this case, depicted here is the health and nutrition bucket. And as they do that between now and the 19th, Don can sit there and watch the portfolios come in and verify that all the teams that have registered do have their entries in, and do all that kind of management kind of thing. And we have all of you over on the right connected and kind of waiting for your portfolios. Somewhere on the 20th, when we are sure that all of the portfolios that need to be graded are in the right spots, Don and Elliot and I will work together, and there's an algorithm in the system we've created that will simply, Don can tell the computer, I want all of my portfolios graded 3 times, and for none of my judges to see the same portfolio twice, that kind of thing. And the reason for telling you that as a judge, we're looking at this whole training through your perspective, is that even though there's lots of portfolios in the competition, the system will randomly pick 3 or between 3 and 5, I think is the way we're setting it this year, and put those in your account or in your bucket. So the point here is that you won't have to go sorting through, if there are 50 entries, you won't have to go sorting through all 50 to find yours. The ones that are assigned to you will be the ones that you can access. At that point, there you have, this is roughly next Wednesday in the depiction at the moment, if you would, you have your portfolios, and we certainly set up the system so that you could grade at your leisure. So one of the things to hold in the back of your brain as you access these portfolios, you do not have to grade them in one sitting. If you started grading one and are 15 minutes into it and get called away, the system will save everything you did. You can close down your computer, go to another computer, and log back into your account and pick right up where you left off. So we certainly, this does not all have to be done in one day or one sitting, and you can grade as you go. And we'll be discussing different models that judges have reported back to us on how they found judging the Conrad competitions to be, using this system. Variations on a theme, if you would. But we just wanted to let you know that once you have access to the portfolios, you have a bit of time to grade them. One of the things you can do is if you do grade a portfolio, if you score it and you are absolutely sure of the scores that you would like to submit back to Don, at this point you can, when we show you the grading sheet, you've reviewed your work and said, that's what I would like to send in. You just click a button and you send the scores and your comments back to Don. It's a good time, even with the depiction on the screen, to tell you that the work won't be taken away from you. Unlike a physical science fair where the kids fold it up and walk away, because this made a copy and put it in your bucket, you will have access to your scores and your comments and the students' work for as long as you have your Innovation Portal account for this competition. Dawn will just get her copy and you get to keep a copy too, which is a nice advantage of working in an online environment. So that especially if you submit one portfolio and want to use your comments to look at the other portfolios in contrast if you'd like. So I wanted to share with you that structure. This is roughly this is the second to last slide in the introductions section that I want to share with you, and then we'll open it up for see what questions we've generated so far. But we wanted to give you also a perspective from the student's point of view. This is, as I mentioned, what the students are doing. They create an Innovation Portal account just like you've done, but with the exception they create an actual portfolio, and they start accessing the rubric, the scored examples, and something I'll put in the back of your brain called reflective questions, derived. They're kind of Socratic questions derived from the rubric itself, and using all those resources to guide the work to document the design process around their project. They can connect that portfolio digitally with project partners that are in the same room or across the world. It doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, we had one team that won in their that won or scored high enough in their division to go to the final round at the Kennedy Space Center last year, where 2 of the students were from Dubai and 2 were from Houston, Texas, and they hadn't met before. Their teachers knew each other and they introduced the students, but they worked together through the Innovation Portal and the portfolio depicted on the screen all the way through the competition, used the rubrics, used the guides, and scored so well that the first time they met was at the Kennedy Center, which was Kennedy Space Center, which was absolutely charming. But then another thing that I wanted you to have as a judge to know what's been going on in preparation for you is that those students can connect that portfolio with their teacher and their project mentors and subject matter experts and receive feedback from them, have been receiving feedback from them, something on the order of like, right now, relative to the rubric, I believe you guys are all at a 3 at the moment. Relative to your justification, if you would, of the problem that you have found. To make it a 4, I think you should diversify your sources. Most of them are from one area. You may want to look here, 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 so that you can score higher on the rubric, and they feed that information back to the students and the teachers and the mentors, and again, try to make the best representation of their work for all of you. So now we're at the point in what they've been doing is they're putting their finishing touches on the portfolio for the semifinal round for all of you, and they're starting to submit them to competitions. It's worthy of note, and you'll see this later, that there are many competitions run through the Innovation Portal using this rubric and this portfolio system. And there are some students who will enter a local competition, a state competition, and will also enter the international, the Conrad International competition with the same piece of work. So students have that ability, and the rubric makes that possible. And then students, if they work on projects for other courses, we have students from 5th grade all the way through postdoctoral students using the Innovation Portal for this. They can document their work on and make as many portfolios as they choose. So this is the last slide before I open up the audio system so that we can ask questions or address the ones that have been put into the chat session. But we wanted you to have, we'll also be sending you some files, some physical information that you can print out if you'd like, because that has been requested by judges before. And I've depicted them here on the screen. The one on the far left, the PDF step-by-step guide, is just, it's only a page and a half. It's just pictorial representations of how to quickly press the buttons and access the portfolios. It's a recap, if you would, of what we're showing you today. It's just how I clicked there. So we thought you'd want to have that. The other two, the one in the center and the one to the far right, we found that even though we have put the rubric and the reflective questions, you can access all of that right on your computer screen. Some judges prefer to have the rubric, a paper version of the rubric, sitting right in front of them on their desk, even though they're accessing the student work online, which is fine. So we wanted you to have that option as a judge as well. So to the far right, we'll be sending you the complete rubric and every score descriptor. And then also in the center, we'll send you the reflective questions I mentioned before. The reflective questions I mentioned before that students have been accessing since the beginning. We found that's also useful for judges, so they know where the questions the students have been trying to answer relative to the rubric. So I'm going to minimize the PowerPoint on the screen at the moment, and we will open up the audio and see if we've generated any questions. And then we'll jump over to the Innovation Portal and show you the walk through the whole system that we set up for you today. So let me open up the audio for everyone. All right, I think the audio is open, and if you have questions, please ask.
Mark, we had one question about if the Innovation Portal is compatible with tablet or iPad browsers.
Yes, an iPad would work great. Anything smaller than an iPad mini, it would work. It tries to scale it down, but there's a lot of information on the screen trying to, it'd be a scrolling around nightmare. But yes, you can access all of this right from an iPad, and judges have done so in the past. Good question, thank you. All right. Oh, go ahead.
This is Marty Gordon. I'm wondering if you will be able to write out a lot of this conversation so that we can have a chance to study it in general. The screen did not come through, but I'm anxious to hear the instructions as a document.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, we can. The step-by-step guide that I mentioned before that we'll be sending you will be helpful. It's right along that line. Also, as I mentioned, we're recording this session. That will be helpful. And then Elliot and I can certainly help you with any of the other steps that are not clear. So we'll keep that in mind. Thank you, sir. All right. I'm going to mute everybody again just for the feedback. But again, you can please use the chat window, answer questions. Elliot, Don, and I are trying to keep an eye on the. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Elliot.
We have one more question.
Please.
When would the final round of judging be if the semifinal round will be at the end of January? And that question may be best for Dawn.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm pulling my notes right now. Sorry. Semifinal, what was the question? Semifinals, the second phase of the semifinals are due from the students on February 22nd. So again, we would open up judging the next day, or by the 23rd, 24th-ish, and then probably have about the same turnaround time, close to 2 weeks for that judging portion. So I don't have exact dates. Let me figure out what those dates would be, and I'll get the next time you take it off a hold, I'll have that information.
All right, perfect.
And then a follow-up on that, is the judging deadline still February 5th for this round?
No, I don't. I think that we bumped it up a little bit to January 31st. Is that right, Elliot, what we said yesterday?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I mean, there's a day or two wiggle room in there if we need it, but I think that we were going to try to publish January 31st as the deadline for phase 1 of the semifinals. And that way we can get the information back to the students in a pretty good amount of time and let them have time to work on phase 2.
All right.
Does that help everybody, those answers?
I have a quick question. So the phase 1 and phase 2 means just different assignments? I mean, different projects?
That's an excellent.
Same project that they're working on, just different portion of their portfolio that they need, different things within their portfolio that they need to complete.
Okay, so it's like stages of their portfolio.
Yes, sir. And
we'll go further in depth with that in the training.
As a matter of fact, thank you, Elliot. I was going to say the same thing. I will make a point to emphasize that. As I mentioned, we're going to jump inside of a student's portfolio, and when we do, I will emphasize what the students have been asked to submit for the semifinal round for all of you. And then if they score well enough in the semifinal round, they'll be invited to go back and beef up the same project again and add a little bit more to it, and then they're invited to come back to the final round. But I can depict that on the screen as well. And I think I'll go ahead and do that. It'd be my segue person. Thank you for that question. So again, I'll mute everybody, and then if you have questions, please type them in the chat window, and we'll try to address them either in the chat or the next time I take us all off mute. All right, everyone. On the screen at the moment, you can see the Conrad challenges. I wanted to show you what it looks like from the point of view of what you'll be experiencing next Wednesday. You've already created an Innovation Portal account, so the graphics, and all that should be familiar. But I want to log in just like you would if you were a judge. So I've set myself up as a judge. When you come to the Innovation Portal, this is the home page. You see pictures of students working on the projects that we've taken. And when you log in, I want to make a point as I do this on the screen. When we created the Innovation Portal account, we thought initially that we would have to create something like a judge's account and a teacher's account and a subject matter expert's account and a student account. And as we got feedback from all the people who would be using this, it turned out exactly the opposite, especially at the collegiate level, where we had students who were building projects for classes but would also turn around and be judges for competitions. And it turned out really what we needed was just an account. So students created an account just like you have, and it was more of a matter of inviting somebody to be a judge or inviting them to be a competition administrator and things like that. And that's important to this first initial step when you log in, because I didn't want to have you be blindsided by something. I've just clicked the login button, and as the system jumps out there and puts my credentials in, I'm going to draw your attention over to the left-hand side of the screen. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that the login defaulted to a menu item called My Portfolios, because the system thinks you want to build a portfolio. Because it has to default somewhere, and the major users are students who want to build portfolios, which is very fine. But actually, just because it defaulted there as judges, we want to look down a couple notches from My Portfolios. So when you log in, it'll default you there, but all you need do is jump down a little bit and click on Opportunities next to the little megaphone icon. As I jump into Opportunities, I'll zoom out a bit so you can see them. These are the competitions and opportunities available to students at the moment that they could submit their portfolio to. And I chose those words carefully as well, because I'm going to zoom back in a little bit and draw your attention to the word current and past at the top. So it defaults to all the current competitions that are available for students to be able to submit portfolios to. That's a very important distinction, because on January 19th, the 4 Conrad competitions that you see listed in front of you at midnight, students will no longer be able to, that's their deadline, they'll no longer be able to submit a portfolio to these competitions, and all 4 of these competitions will jump over into the past category. So if I could use your imagination on the screen, it really is a matter of logging in, going to opportunities, and then going to understanding that it's in the past opportunities where I'll find the Conrad competitions next Wednesday. So superimpose that picture right on top of this, and if you were a judge for the cyber technology, you'd click on the cyber technology competition or the health and nutrition, and vice versa. For our example this morning, I've created on the left-hand corner the training example competition. I'm very original in my example titles, but superimpose the competition that you'll be judging for on there, and you click that. If this were health and nutrition, I would click that. If that was the one I was judging, and it takes you right inside the competition. It defaults to the description of the competition, but because you're now a judge and connected, it gives you this extra link called reviews. This is your bucket. When I click reviews, you will all see my name pop up, superimpose your name right there, and I'm going to show you some features of this. These are, you can see some of the projects, the demonstration projects we have for you here. This one's called Lawnmower Kickstarter and Cracked iPhone Screen. These are the portfolios put in my bucket. Underneath my name, here's some feedback for you. You can see that I've been assigned 11 portfolios. I just assigned 11 to myself, so we had plenty to work with if we needed to. Again, you'll be assigned between 3 and 5. And there's a fraction here. This fraction on the screen reads currently 3 out of 11. All that is feedback to me to say that I have finished grading and submitted 3 of the 11 that I was assigned. So it's just feedback. Have I done my job for Dawn yet? Have I not? There's one way to look at it. There's also some individual feedback underneath. If you look at the titles of these portfolios, Cracked iPhone Screen, Lawnmower, Kickstarter, underneath them there is a word called that says complete, meaning I have, for that portfolio, I have submitted everything for Dawn. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and here's one. Of Engineering is the name that the students gave this portfolio, but you'll see the word active underneath it, meaning even if I had started scoring this one or thought I finished this one, the word active is letting you know that you haven't submitted it yet. So these are just feedback mechanisms for you as you look inside your bucket of portfolios. We're going to look at this one called Of Engineering, and so all you need to do, if these were the ones assigned to me on the screen, I want to take a look at this portfolio, so I'm going to just click on the title, and it will open the portfolio for me. At this point, what I want you to imagine in your brain, and this was the model we were asked to use, is if somebody had set a 3-ring binder, in front of you closed with a little tab sticking out to the right, if you would, where students were instructed to put different pieces of the project for you to score. And on the interface, you can see the little tabs off to the right. Zoom in a little bit here, and you can see some letters over there. And you'll see a cover page. As I hover over each of these tabs, you'll see a change on the screen and different parts that kind of thumbing through the 3-ring binder, if you would. But the cover page, I wanted to share with you, there's nothing to grade on the cover page, but that's where it will default. Typically, students will put pictures of themselves, maybe some information about the school they're from, and some background maybe on why they chose the project that they did. There's nothing to grade here, but that information is something you can access and look at if you're interested. For the Conrad competition, I want you to take a look at these tabs along the side. These tabs, called elements by the rubric specialists, elements A through N, are basically taking the design process and breaking it up into different portions. For the Conrad competition and for the semifinal round, students were only asked to submit information in elements A through F: presentation and justification of the problem, analysis of prior solution attempts, presentation and justification of design requirements, design concept and generation and analysis, brainstorming if you would, application of STEM principles to justify that the avenue that they picked has merit to try, and then finally some information about design viability for the project itself. So mentioned earlier is what's involved in the students' semifinal round and final round. For the semifinal round, students are only asked to submit something in A through F, even though they may have gone further, and you do have access to that. If they get invited back to the final round, they will be told that they are going to be graded on elements A through I, and they can go back and beef up letter A and beef up letter C if they want to, if they're invited to the semifinal round, or excuse me, the final round. All right, so what we've done so far is we've shown you how to access the portfolios. One of the next step in that bullet point from the beginning of the presentation was how do I access the rubric? Now, one way to access the rubric will be to simply print out the files we send you, but we want to show you that they exist also right on the innovation portal for you at your fingertips. So I'm going to go over here to tab A, Presentation and Justification of the Problem, and I'm going to click it, mimicking opening the portfolio. And here's the student's work, and you can scroll down and look at this page. I have a wheel mouse here that I'm scrolling through. Or you can use the little slide bar to the right to pull the information down, just like any web page on the internet. You know you're looking at element A because the blue tab stated A, and it also wrote the words Presentation and Justification of a Problem right on the page for you. So you know this is what the students have submitted for that. The rubric, as I mentioned, is right at your fingertips. I'm just going to walk the mouse, I'm not clicking anything, over the letter A, and from the side, the rubric pops out in front of you. The students have the exact same interface, so they would see the same thing. And if you look right in the middle of the page, it says the rubric element, and then there are some scores up there that look very much like AP. It was modeled after that, from 0 to 5. I noticed a question on the chat room that I'll just interject right here. Is there any page limit for each element? No, there is not. Students can put in make the pages as long as they want. Typically, though, they're targeting this what's in the rubric, and they won't go on for 100 pages for element A. That's a little bit of overkill, but a good question. All right, back to the rubric. So here you see that the interface has defaulted to the highest score, a 5, and here's the text for a 5. And then as you look at the screen and look at those scores, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the rubric specialists have asked me to ask you to picture a staircase, walking down a staircase. Over the last 4 years, the rubric has gone through iteration after iteration with the intent of making the difference between, like a good rubric should be, the difference between a 2 and a 3 in terms of work and refinement should be the same difference between a 3 and a 4. It shouldn't be an awkward staircase. And you can see that to some extent even in this training session. As I click on 4, you can access the rubric for 4 and 3, and you can see that what it's talking about becomes less and less refined, talking about things that are missing, things that they kind of have a general sense of but didn't specify, and you work your way all the way down to a 0. And let's talk about a 0 for a minute. If students, because they have all of these instructions in front of them to use this rubric, these guides and things for all of you, if a student, or team, submits something, a blank page, do score it a 0. Or if what they've submitted has nothing to do with the rubric, it looks like they just had to submit something, it is okay to hand them a 0. And that sticking to the rubric is the only way to make this a level playing field, just like a science fair rubric as well. So as students submit more and more refined things relative to the rubric, the score goes up. So I wanted to show you how to access the rubric right there. But I also want to show you that we have a couple of other resources for you as a judge online that the students also had. So if you look up above where it says element rubric, you'll see the words, did you offer the reviewers, the people who are going to judge your portfolio, of the following things for this element, for element A. Almost a checklist, if you would, some Socratic questions. And if you look at these bullets, it kind of says, did you have a clear and concise problem statement that offers some cause-effect phrasing? Did you submit timely evidence supporting the problem statement? Or if you submitted evidence from 30 years ago, did you submit evidence that evidence is still relevant? to support that something should be done about this problem. So the idea here is pulled from the rubric itself. These reflective questions for students say, if you are meeting, really attacking these bullet points, you're getting closer and closer to a 5. So wonderful teaching tool, but also very, very valuable for judges as they look at the work, knowing that the students had these two things in front of them. Finally, the last resource we have for you as judges, we just wanted to share with you that it is available. Students and teachers, one of the greatest things in problem solving that you can have is last year's work, especially if it's been graded. So over the past 4.5 years, we have been pulling portfolios with permission of students and parents from the innovation portal, redacting names and schools and putting them in front of engineering educators and professionals who teach engineering design, and just a whole bunch of raters, hundreds of them, and they would take the rubric and grade and we did the inter-rater reliability studies to refine the rubric. And when dozens of people look at a piece of work and say, that is a 3, that's exactly a 3, and this is why, we were allowed to take those examples, those scored examples, and put them online, both as a teaching tool, certainly a wonderful teaching tool if you were teaching this, and also for judges to look back and say, okay, that's a 3. A lot of people looked at that and said it's a 3. I see why it's a 3. I can extrapolate what I've learned there to the portfolio I'm grading, or this in the student's case, I can extrapolate what they've done before to the project I'm in. And I'd like to just take some time to show you one of those. Again, you don't have to access these, but you'll find them right at the bottom of the rubric on the screen. So at the moment, this is set to a 3, and here's a scored element example. If I want to see what a 3 looks like, I'm about to click this link at the bottom that says Snow Clear LED Traffic Visor. But before I click that, I want you to look at the top of the screen with me and notice that we have the judges in mind. I want to access that resource, but I don't want to really be taken away from the student's work. So all that will happen is another tab will open up in my browser, whichever browser you're using. So I'm going to click Snow Clear LED, and as it downloads that resource, you can see that if I just want to click back on the tab, it didn't leave where I left the student's work before. I just want to access the resource. Now I'd like to show you what's on these resources so that you can. Right away, it gives a title of the project, but you'll see a summary that is a collection of the comments that dozens of people who looked at this particular entry have found it to be a 3, why it wasn't a 4, and what advice they have. That can be very valuable to you as a judge if you need it, and certainly as for the students. So the summary comes first, then a depiction of where that falls in the engineering design process, posted, represented by each of these tabs in the portfolio. Then for this section, element A, the entire rubric, and with the 3 highlighted, saying this is what it is. And then the most important part of this entry, what the students had actually shown. So for perspective's sake, I've shared this before, but it's a great example. This is an example of a 3, but let me show you what the students have submitted, because much of what they submitted is very typical to what you'll be seeing. They put a problem statement out there. In this case, I found it to be very interesting. The stoplights that we're familiar with, red, green, yellow kind of thing, when I was younger, they were incandescent bulbs, and they had to send crews out. When a bulb burnt out, you send crews out. They literally put them up in a bucket and they change the bulbs, and it's a very expensive thing to do. They have been replaced in most municipalities with LEDs, the little dots that you see, because they will last much longer, and they produce and they will use far less electricity. So it sounds like it's a great thing, and it would cost municipalities less. And it turns out these students have found out a great deal of information that that's not exactly true in northern climates. Because the light bulb, the incandescent bulb, though inefficient at producing light, it produces a lot of heat. And it turns out that that heat, the residual heat, was enough to keep the lenses warm enough so that ice and snow would not collect on the lens, it would just simply drip off. And now that they've replaced them with LEDs, it turns out that that heat is gone, and those lenses collect ice and snow and obscure the light to the point where you can't see it. So the students, and I mentioned typical of what you'll see, have submitted articles as proof that this is a problem worth solving. Here, January 2010 article from the New York Times, The students submitted a summary for you to read, a link to the article, and why that's a good piece of justification. One from the Chicago Tribune, 2009, and other articles. And then as I go down, they submitted articles, accident reports, people going through intersections, just guessing and getting in collisions because they couldn't see the signals. They submitted some excerpts from some transportation engineers that they interviewed either online or over the phone. The second one here is really interesting. This particular municipality had literally invested in 2 different products, according to this engineer, and neither of them worked. So they're losing a lot of money running, every time it snows, running crews out there to clean off the lights and putting off there. Here's one from Canada, I think it was the one above, and one from Illinois. And then finally, another article at the bottom. I just wanted to share with you because it has a great picture of the problem itself that they're trying to address. So this was considered relative to the rubric to be a 3, and that advice you saw at the top was why it wasn't a 4 or a 5. So these students really went after trying to show that this is a problem worth tackling. And as a judge, this can be a really, really powerful resource. Again, you don't have to use it, but I did want to take and elongate that amount of time to show you that those examples exist on the bottom. If you want to see an example of a 2, there it is, a 4, that kind of thing, all the way along. All right.
Mark, we have 2 questions if you want to take a pause.
Absolutely, sure, please.
Is there any page limit for each element?
There is not. There is no page limit for each element. Students, it gives them one sheet of what you're looking at. If you were to print it out, is actually an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It gives them one piece of paper, and if they want to add to that, they just add pieces of paper, and there is no page limit.
And then is each topic considered to be standalone topic and uses a 0 through 5 scale, or do you look at it as a whole for the entire portfolio?
That is an excellent question. Thank you for asking that, and thank you, Elliot, for sharing that. Each element has its own rubric. As a matter of fact, the rubric, I'll do air quotes in the air, is really a suite of rubrics. It's a 0 through 5 for A, a 0 through 5 for B, C, and D, all the way down.
And then one more, and maybe 2 more. Do you weigh references from technical journals heavier versus newspapers or Wikipedia?
That is a call on your part, because sometimes it depends on the project and it depends on the source. So the students are tasked with providing tangible evidence. So if the article is obscure, the newspaper article is obscure and doesn't offer specific references, then you may not consider it, even though it's from the Chicago Tribune, it may not be very good data to support that the problem exists and something should be done about. The same thing can be said about technical journals. Sometimes the technical journals don't address the problem. They're actually talking more about the ability to do something. So I don't know how best to answer that question, because it really depends on the article and what students have sent you. So this is a judgment call on your part as to whether the information that they gave you is really supporting the problem well.
And then maybe a better question for Don to address, but does the Conrad Foundation provide support in terms of connecting students to subject matter experts, scientific journals, statewide country resources?
Don, I'll just open it up so you can answer that question.
Okay, if a team reaches out to us and asking for subject matter experts, we do try to reach out to our database and some of our challenge partners, their organizations, to see if they have somebody that we can put the team in contact with. I've only had one team who has reached out to me asking for somebody. And as far as scientific journals and resources and stuff like that, no. Not to say that we wouldn't, but it's not something that's ever really come up or a request from teams. So, like I said, not to say that we wouldn't help them, we would, but we just haven't had that request.
And then we have another question. Is there any template that the students have to follow to explain their topic, or a particular method for answering each element? And I think that is the rubric. For example, if they support evidence and actually meet the requirements for a 4, which is highlighted on Mark's screen right now, or now a 5 highlighted.
Sorry.
If for a 4, if they answer the rubric element and offer the reviewers evidence to support those questions, then they'll have earned that score of the rubric, and that is like that staircase from 0 to 5.
It's an excellent statement. And in terms of also another connotation of the template, this is totally free-form, just like having paper out of the printer, making a physical portfolio. So there is embedded in the portal. There's no put a chart here, put a picture there, put evidence here. It gives them it's a blank page for them to try to meet those goals. So those go hand in hand. But they are it is a question relative to a template that's been asked before. Thank you, Elliot. All right, I'm going to put everybody on mute, and the next steps I'm going to show you. We showed you how to access the portfolios, how to access the rubrics and the resources for judges, and really there's only 2 more steps left of this, and that is how to access the score sheets and submit my scores. So I'd like to show that to you right now. So we'll continue with letter A, or element A, the presentation and justification of the problem. As I'm reading the students' work and I have a good handle on what they've submitted, if you will all draw your attention down to the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a little icon of the tip of a fountain pen, if you would. I'm going to click that icon, and you'll see that it overlays the scoring sheet on top of the work. Now, I have a wheel mouse here. I'm going to show you that you can leave the scoring sheet on, and it will rotate the work behind the screen. But if you are working on a small screen, this was an exercise programming-wise in screen real estate. So you'll see that there's an arrow where you can minimize that and read the work, and then jump the score sheet back up in front of you. So this is the score sheet for element A, and this is where you actually put a score in. It will default to a question mark, meaning haven't scored it yet. And in this section of comments over here, you can, comments are not required, but if you do want to write, this is the reason I gave it a 3. I'll offer some gibberish of text because I want to show you where this shows up. Just before you submit again, you can review your whole work, all of your scores in one sheet, just to make sure that they're right. So I put some gibberish on the screen, and then I'm going to choose a score. So right now I'm thinking that this might be a 3. So I'm going to click on a 3, and there I've chosen a 3. But if I could draw your attention even closer, there's a little plus sign up next to the 3. I'm going to click that because it puts out something called, like the floating rubric. And if you'll think of the rubric both as a staircase and then the process much like an eye doctor, it's very much a best fit. So if you are looking at a 2 and the students have hit every major thing of a 2 and then seem to have gone a little bit into 3, you can go back and forth reading the rubric right here and say, you know what, this group has a little bit more than 50%, maybe 60% of a 3. So it's a 3. They got most of it, so it doesn't have to be, if you're missing something, you don't get a 3 and you have to get it all before you get a 5. If most of what is being asked is definitely a 2 and most likely a really strong 3, then make it a 3. If I go back and forth and say, yeah, they did everything for a 2, but just barely a couple of, they could have done a little bit more work to get a 3, then it's a 2. And things, so that kind of back and forth, and this interface supports that kind of eye doctor thing, try this out, try that out, one last time before I pick a score. So in this case, I'm going to stick with my 3 in my example. I've clicked on 3, I've added my comments if I want them, and that's all there is to scoring it. The entire process, I'm going rather slow to show it to you. It is rather quick. The interface is meant to be like that. But I mentioned early on in the training session today that you could score and just stop. If you'll notice, there's no save button. The system has been saving every few microseconds. So if I shut down my computer and walk away and have to run my daughter to school and come back or go to a different computer, I can pick up right where I left off. The 3 has been recorded, and so have my comments. So to show you, once you get into the hang of that, I'm going to just grade element B. It's the same process for element B, and I'll emphasize the question that was asked earlier. It was an excellent question. Again, 0 through 5 for B. This is the documentation and analysis of prior solution attempts. Once I get a handle on what we're doing there, I can open the score sheet. And let's say this group did a really good job. a 4, and I'm going to just type many letters R over here just so we can see that again. And I've created a comment and chosen 4. Again, I could access the floating rubrics for this specific element, and I can go back and forth and say, yep, that's a 4. Definitely not a 5, but a strong 4. And I'll do that again for element C over here. I'll throw a score of 2. Maybe they didn't do so well here. And I'm going to put the letters D all the way across. And at this point, I want to, through the eyes of a judge, I'm supposed to grade from A through F today. Let's pretend I thought I did. I was going back and forth, and I thought I got everything right, and I'm ready to submit my scores, which is the last step today. If you'll think of like Amazon, when you order something from Amazon, it gives you a summary page before you actually have to buy anything. That's a good practice. So we put it in here. And if you look at the top where it says complete review, where I'm about to click right now, when I click that, you'll see that a summary of my scores and comments. You can see the 3 I gave to A, the 4 I gave to B, and the 2 I gave to C. But you also see the question marks around D, E, and F. And it's telling me that even if I had put a comment in here, I certainly haven't chosen a grade. So if I click the back button, I can go back and insert something for D, E, and F if I'd like to. So I'm just going to add something to E for the moment, and make that a 4 and a comment. And then I'm going to go back to complete review, so you can see that. So you can see that it's all there. So again, A through F. One of the things I will share with you is even though you're being tasked with grading only A through F, students are hoping that they get into the final round. They may have submitted something in G, H, and I, and you certainly have access to that. If you're interested in the project, you can jump down there and look at it. But there will be no grading sheet for you, so that keeps people from overscoring. So your task is to submit a score from 0 to 5 for elements A through F. One thing, it's worth our time. We're almost right to the end here where we submit scores to Don. But I'm going to pause and talk about one way to score. One way to score is to finish one portfolio and submit it. Another way to score is to keep all your, it's recorded my scores, but maybe I want to look at the other portfolios and see how I feel first and come back to this. At this moment, since I haven't submitted anything, everything is still very fluid. I can go back and change grades, hit the back button, and until I submit it, it's all still in my bucket, if you would. If I do want to submit it, if I felt, okay, that is, I've gone through all my portfolios, these are the scores and the comments I want to submit, then there's the last task we had today. How do I submit scores to Don, Elise, and Carrie? To do so is just at the bottom of the summary list. And you'll see there's a sentence here, and if you read that or kind of look at that sentence, all it's telling you is that if you click the button on the bottom, which we're about to do, that says complete the review, you won't be able to edit it any longer. So again, if you're at this point and you want to keep things fluid, jump over to another portfolio. We'll just click opportunities and go get another one out of the bucket and look at it. But if I do feel strongly that I'm absolutely sure that this is what I'd like to submit, I check I understand this sentence and I wish to complete this review. And then when I click this button, complete review, it makes a copy of all of my work and gives it to Don. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't take it away from you. I'm going to jump back in and show you that. I'm going to go to past. I'm going to go look in my bucket, if you would, and click reviews. And if you remember, the title of this particular thing was called of engineering. There they are. And you'll see that of engineering used to say active, where I've highlighted on the screen. It now says complete. If I want to go in and look at my work, I can. I just can't edit it any longer. I can review the summary, and there's all the scores and all the comments I made. Maybe you'd like to copy and paste a comment from a previous portfolio to a current one you're grading. If you scroll down, you can see that there's no ability to do anything else anymore. You can see the work, you can see your comments, but now those scores have been submitted to Don, and that's the entire process from accessing portfolios. I've gone through it very slow, as I mentioned before. Accessing portfolios, looking at the rubric resources, accessing the score sheet, using the score sheet, and then submitting it back to Don, all inside the one system. So what I'd like to do, especially with respect to everybody's time, because we're getting close to the end of our hour together, I'd like to bring on the screen Elliot's email address and mine. And if you don't have these emails in front of you, you can always email Dawn and she'll get back to us. But I'd like to open up the floor for questions for anybody in the time that we have left.
We have a few questions, Mark. If you could open up the rubric on your screen, I believe we can address this question. So the question is, has your clarification that not all sub-elements must be met warrant a score been articulated in the overall rubric explanation? I believe this question, what this is getting at, is whether the rubric how it's rounded. And if I misunderstand this question, please follow up with the question. But looking at the rubric, Mark was explaining it as a staircase and one of best fit, which means you could, if you think the justification of the score would elicit a score of somewhere between 3 and 4, do find the best fit between 3 and 4. It has to be either a 3 or 4, and there's no requirement that you have to round down or you have to round up. And I believe that answers that question. It's the best fit, not round up or down with the score. And then we have another question. After the judging period has ended, will we receive feedback on how the other judges marked the portfolios we judged, i.e. a bit of judge self-calibration between phases?
That's an excellent question. That data, if you'll picture again, all of us at a physical location, a science fair if you would, all of our score sheets turned into Dawn, that information will be at Dawn's fingertips. You won't receive it automatically, but we can offer back information like the average score for a particular element or for a particular portfolio relative to those things without highlighting any specific judge. So that data will be available to the competition administrators to share back with you.
Then we have another question. Will all the other elements be grayed out after element F? And it will not be graded. It will not be grayed out, but the score sheet button will not be available for elements that are not being evaluated at that point.
That's an excellent question. What I will do I'm going to unmute everybody so that we can ask our questions directly, but I am keeping track of the time. And we are at the top of our hour together. I do want to give Dawn a chance to talk to all of you and with any last advice or instructions. Again, we'll be sending you these resources. We're still here. And then if you wish to remain on and ask questions, we can certainly do that. So Dawn, I'll turn it over to you, and then we can let everybody go.
Okay, thank you. I was looking at the dates, and yes, so the student deadline for phase 1 is January 19th. So we will turn around and assign portfolios that next day. So you can expect portfolios between the 20th and the 22nd of January. You will have till January 31st to complete that judging. Phase 2 for the students is due February 22nd. You could expect to see portfolios February 23rd, 24th. And then we would close phase 2 on March 6th. Because our culminating event, the summit here at Kennedy Space Center, is April 20th for the students. So the students that are coming to Summit, that gives them just over a month to get their travel arrangements and all of that made. So I'll email all of this information out as well to everybody, just so you know that's kind of the dates that we're looking at right now. And if you come across any other questions that you have, please feel free to email me. That's what I'm here for. I monitor that email all day long, so please feel free to email me. And if it's a question about the portal that I can't answer, I will forward it on to Mark and or Elliot and get them looped in so they can get an answer to you. And again, thank you to everybody for volunteering as a judge for this competition and for taking time out to attend this training.
Excellent. And as I said earlier, if you need to go, and many of you do, thank you for being here. We'll answer your questions as we go. If you want to remain online to ask a couple of questions if you have time, we're here for you. So we'll do that. Give everybody a chance. Give them permission to to leave and permission to stay.
Hi, Mark. I have one question. So I noticed that the submission was done, completion of the review with some unassigned score. That means a question mark on them. So will that affect the total weighted sum?
It will not, because everybody will be graded exactly the same. So let me jump inside another portfolio and on the screen. There's 30 points possible in the semifinal round. So let me, like I said, I apologize. I'm fooling myself that I can actually multitask here. But it was a good question. Let me see if I'm answering it correctly. I'll jump inside a different portfolio. For element C here, if this student scores all fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 points, if they get the maximum amount of points on this one from you, that's perfectly fine. From another judge, they may have less. So remember, each portfolio is going to be graded between 3 and 5 times, and the averaged score will be, the system will average the scores, and that will be the highest average score will be the first place winner. If we have a tie, we have the ability to assign the portfolio to judges who haven't seen it yet and see if there is a tiebreaker. And if that ends in a tie, then you just have 2 first place or 2 second places, something like that. I don't know. Did that answer your question?
The question was actually this. Let's say I complete the review, but I did not assign a score on element B. Let's say, I mean, it still has question mark there. So how could it possible that I could even submit the review?
Okay. So if you submit a portfolio with a question mark, the question mark will actually default to 0 points as well.
Right. So 0. So that 0 will be taken into account in the overall scoring, right? The
yes.
Final weighted scoring.
Yes, and so it will be a 0, and it will be fed right into the thing. That was a good question. It's not a negated.
Okay.
It's a 0.
Right. So I was wondering if there is a check while I try to submit, if there is a kind of pop-up message which says, "Are you sure?" Because you have not graded this one. Sometimes people forget, right?
Sure. And in that instance, what I showed you before, when you go to the complete review. Sorry, I apologize for not having an active one in front of me. When you go to complete the review, like the Amazon check I mentioned before, it shows you a summary of all of your scores. And if you have A through F logged into your brain, and you look over there and see a question mark next to, say, letter B, you know that you haven't done it. So that's the only check. It's not going to stop you from doing that, from submitting it and making that mistake. I wish that is something we've asked the programmers if they can do. They've said yes, we can build in that feature, but for the semifinal round, and probably for the final round, that feature won't be available.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent question, though. Thank you. There's a question in the chat room for you, Don. Are we still looking for judges?
I believe she addressed that in the chat.
Oh, she did.
As well.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just looking at that.
Oh, no. And there looks like there was another question about last year. Yes, it was. Just using the. Yes, it was held last year. It's been held for quite a few years now, but it was definitely held last year. I don't know if the person who posted that's still on the phone, but I don't know why you weren't able to pull anything up, but it was definitely held.
Excellent. I can answer that question, and I guess there's also a question about if students paste information in a different element, but is relative to, if they post something in A, but it's actually relevant to letter C, what should I do as a judge? It's an excellent question. The answer is that the only way to level the playing field is to grade what's in front of you as a judge, as all other judges are doing. Even though because the students have had enough instruction to say, this is where you need to put this information with this rubric. So if they do put information in the wrong place, it's not. We're asking you as judges not to make up the difference. They have. It wouldn't be a it would be a mistake, but it's not something we want you to fix for them in the grading. It's a good question, though. And then the preceding year information. One of the things that I have done on the innovation portal is the competition, the wording for the competition is almost exactly the same. You can find information from last year's competition at the Conrad Foundation site itself, not on the innovation portal. Or another place I'm going to share with you that you can find it is on the screen where it says Learning Center under Getting Connected. I want to share with you, there's a picture of the Conrad kids right there that popped up. But as I scroll down, it says download the competition flyers detailing winning projects from some of the competitions hosted previously. And if you'll take a look, right in the middle, the 2015 Spirit of Innovation Challenge winners and the judges are listed there. So you can download and get information about last year's competition right there. And again, that's, pardon me, that's on the Get Connected page of the innovation portal. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you, Mark, for addressing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then will we be able to see the finalists from this round of judging?
Yes, excellent question. This was asked before. One of the things I should have addressed in the training is that one of the disadvantages of hosting a competition online, as opposed to being able to walk through a gymnasium, is that even though you're only assigned these three, you get a sense of what the competition is and what the quality of all of the other projects are. In this case, it's kind of blind to you. You're only assigned the ones that you're grading. So we've talked to Don about this. We're going to be, as soon as the winners of this round of competition are known, even if they weren't assigned to you, we're going to go back and assign them to everybody so that they can at least see what the winners were. And then we can go back, and then the final round of competition is a completely different competition. It's the whole system all over again. But yes, to try to bring back some of that, what does the rest of the competition or the field of competition look like, especially who were the winners of this round. The way we're going to try to address that with the technology is when Don tells me to, she'll say, I want the top 5 placers in each category visible to all of our judges, and we'll just go back and assign them to you.
Mark, one last question from me. I think it was mentioned, I probably missed it. So phase 1 is up to F, and phase 2 is from G to N?
G to I. So they're not going to even, they're not using the entire portfolio. And then relative to that, I do want to let you know that when students find out that they're in the final round, we haven't taken their portfolio away from it, just made a copy of it for the competition. So students can go back and add information or beef up relative to the way their mentors and the teachers are telling them. They can add information for the final round once they've been invited to elements A through F, and then they are asked to add G through I. So it'll only be A through I in the final round. Yes, sir. Thank you. Good questions.